morning, everybody. My name is Jason Petzer. I have the privilege of being the CTO at Osiris Trading, and we are part of the group that powers Betway Africa. So, if you're here today, then somehow this piqued your interest. You're probably currently leading technology teams, or considering leading a team, or keen just to be part of a team that's led well. I can promise you that leading tech teams will be a tough but equally rewarding journey. I'm going to step into some themes for the day. So some of the themes that we're going to cover today are: what is our current relationship with the businesses that we serve? How could these things be different if our businesses trusted us implicitly? And some of the stuff that we can do, or that I think we can do, to restore some of the trust in technology and that our businesses have in us. And then for some of the other guys in the room, how you can help this cause and become a part of the solution. So, you may notice that I take this topic pretty seriously. This is really a call to action. I think this is probably one of the hardest problems that we can solve within technology, our relationship with our customers, and making it simple for our teams to work with them and to get our businesses to trust our teams. Some of my talk is for those of you who are contemplating leadership, where I believe that you should focus your energy so that you can have the best impact, and the rest will be advice for those guys who are doing the real work that us leaders need to serve and defend on a daily basis. Threaded through the presentation, you'll see some timeless advice coming from somebody that I like to call the secret developer. You may recognize some of this sooner before he gets revealed later in the presentation. So, I'm a regular IT guy that honestly believes that technology people can pivot the energy that they have away from building technology towards leading technology and still get up and be happy every morning of every day. And today we're talking about a subject that I'm really, really passionate about, and I've spent more than 15 years in retrospect attempting to get this right. So let's talk a bit about me, because I've got the mic. So I love my job almost every single day. I spent almost my entire life in technology, ranging from desktop support to leading enterprise teams and platforms for large financial services. And I guess this all started probably in grade 7 when we managed to win a computer, a high Hyundai of all things. And that kind of started the journey of technology within my life. I ended up building some basic automation on the PC so that my mom didn't have to call me to play games. So in some respects, you could say that I've always wanted to serve the business better and make my life simpler. I was a half-decent developer for a decade who loved solving problems. So I loved spending my time around wicked problems and not sleeping for days till I got it right. And I'm relentlessly optimistic about almost everything. So I do believe that I can defy physics and that the teams that I serve can do the same, which does make life tough some of the times. I'm also exceptionally fortunate to have had people who supported me and sponsors almost my entire career that gave me, scaringly, the authority to act and to do stuff that I got away with that probably shouldn't have gotten away with. That's me on the right. It's an old photo, so you probably won't recognize it. I've also filled out a little bit since then. And by the way, those blue pants over there were actually chinos. So at some stage during this journey, the business taught me to dress properly, and I got rid of those chinos. It was 2008. So the project that started all of this. So once upon a time, there was a half-decent developer going about his developer business, and I had an opportunity to take a chance. I spent almost a decade in business, which was invaluable to understand the disconnect. This is somewhat of a training ground for exactly where the miscommunication was happening between us and them. And we assembled a team of people, got immersed into the business, and I guess the biggest thing that stood out during the course of all of this was we managed to have a monumental impact. We solved a really cool business problem, and we had very few overheads. Like, life was simple. Like, requirements gathering, solutioning kind of happened organically. It wasn't forced. We didn't have to think about it as much as I guess people are forced to do now. And we were in the trenches together every single day, working hard to solve exactly what the guys wanted solved. And we got feedback almost every minute of every day. So this wasn't solved through fancy or fandangled technology. The technology stack behind it was fairly simple. Like, we didn't do anything miraculous or new. We just ended up building something that somebody else thought was really, really cool, and that solved an amazing problem for them. So I realized that, like, this result wasn't by mistake. We became, or were, truly agile before even that got commoditized. And it wasn't simple to transition from being a developer with my nice comfy Blakey and being self-reliant and not having to like engage with other people to get stuff done. That was quite a challenge, and move into that nuanced space, which is leading technology people. I mean, all people can be buggy, and frustrated people even more so. And so I spent the last 15 years kind of identifying the ingredients that made part of that, and to some extent trying to chase that dragon or recreate that feeling or that thing that made this so meaningful and amazing for people that were part of that journey. And realizing how rare it is. So let's step into what I think our current context is now, and maybe the problem statement for where we find ourselves today. So I think that for the most part, people who work in technology today, and especially engineers and developers who understand what it takes to get stuff delivered, work for an audience that sometimes don't understand what it takes to deliver the complex outcomes that they're looking to achieve. Seemingly, a lot of the people that we work for have that look of disappointment, not like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed kind of look. There's not a lot of like, wows, that was amazing, like, I don't know how you got that right going on. Sometimes internally we have to overcompensate for that a bit, which is okay as well. Crazy timelines and budgets, and people who are seemingly also experts in our industry, who are getting advice or content from various different places and think that they can do it faster and better than we can. So because this context saves lives, I think that we can do something different. I think that we can build trusting relationships with our customers and businesses that mean that those engagements become a lot simpler and we start working together a lot better, and have customers who truly see us as part of a broader team within their business and not somebody who's delivering something on the side. So how did we get here? Similarly, to going bankrupt, slowly, suddenly. Increased complexity, oversimplifying stuff. And I guess this is a biggie and this may sting a bit, but I'd say like it's definitely got something to do with us individuals, the people represented here today, not stepping into the gap. Too internally focused maybe, like the word enamored I took out. And I think to some degree that also plays a role in how we find ourselves here today. Honestly dislike the narrative that you find pasted all over, where like people tell you how tough it is to be a CIO or to lead technology. I think that that's probably a cop-out. So I think to some extent it's our fault collectively for letting the wolf through the door. The impact of this. So we keep putting our heads down and working harder and harder to try and get around some of the stuff that is here. Time wasting, increased oversight, like working to overcome this perception that non-delivery persists. I want to say that that's not fine. That there's something that we can do. And I guess in the next part, we're going to go into how I think things could be different if we built proper relationships with our business stakeholders and started working together differently. So this is what it would look like if our customers trusted us. So if they trusted us, we'd be solving problems closely with them. We'd know exactly what those were. And it would feel like we're part of a broader team. There'd be more congratulations, which is always fun. We'd feel understood and appreciated for our craft. There'd be an appreciation for how difficult the problem was that you were solving and not a dumbing down or simplification of what it is. We'd have to do less explaining or less explaining around getting technology outcomes that we need in order to make our lives easier. And there'd be less of the stuff that's not building and developing that distracts you from your daily outcomes. And so now we're moving into the recipe part of this talk, or the stuff that I think over the last 15 years I've distilled down to what can make a big difference if we employ these different components. So the first one is step up and lead. It is convenient to sit on the side and be self-sufficient, but that'll only get us so far, right? Like you get to be the expert in a vacuum for only so long before somebody comes and usurps you with a great story and a PowerPoint presentation. You need to get in the ring. It's not easy, but it is definitely worth it. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Like our clients and customers and businesses oftentimes need a lot of help understanding just how hard it is, some of the stuff that they're asking for. One line in a presentation seems so simple, but in reality, the amount of steps and the complexity involved with us integrating into existing platforms, changing what we had built before, is not that simple. It's just simply not that simple. We need to match intensity. So if you're going to step up and lead, unfortunately, some of the times you just don't really get to sleep. Like when the people who are doing the work, you need to be present. And when the business is there, you need to be present as well. So the one half is nocturnal and the other half is not, which means you kind of need to find a way to balance that different instinct that exists with the people that you're trying to serve. And then I guess like seeking to understand exactly what it is that the businesses that you work in want, which is a large amount of inquiry with the people who you serve. Really trying to understand like what is the problem that you're trying to solve, so that we don't have to do complicated stuff to end at a point where the person goes, well, that's not really what I wanted. I just wanted a glass of water. So that becomes an important part of the role as well. You've got to be a cheerleader. So you've got to be so close to the people that are in your teams that you understand them intimately and ferret out things that you can broadcast to anybody who will listen. And by anybody who will listen, you've got to always have some kind of cool fact on hand that somebody made possible, that you can give somebody in the passage. And at every point in the elevator, you can tell them something awesome that somebody did yesterday, which changed their life today. And that may not be something that changed their life dramatically, but it may be something that gets us one step closer towards where they want to go. You got to live vicariously through your team and every little one. I wasn't joking when I said it was tough to take off the little developer blankie and go from a solo canoeist where you could charter your own destiny, and now all of a sudden have to live through everybody else's. But it is possible to actually get a lot of energy and joy from other people's wins within your team, and empower your people. So this sort of speaks to what I think is one of the main ingredients in terms of how you set up execution when you're going to lead. You're going to be bombarded. Gosh, there are some HR people in the room. Let's just look. He's protecting me at the moment, so I can't be too violent. Sometimes cookie cutter profiles just aren't going to work and aren't going to cut it. When you have profiles of people in your team that look like they're very segregated, it's your job as a leader to understand. And I'll give you a very close, I was a rubbish developer. I loved solving problems, and as soon as I solved the problem, then I ran in the opposite direction because it was just no fun anymore to mop it up. So I needed somebody who loved coming behind me and mopping up the mess that I created, because once I had solved it, it wasn't fun anymore, and then I just ran away. You've got to know your team so intimately that you get to put people in the right place that are not just called junior, senior, and intermediate developers, but people who actually enjoy mopping up stuff. There are actually people who like doing that. So serve and protect. I think the most important point over here is that part of being around all the time is not necessarily to help solve problems, right? It's so that when the poo really hits the fan, you get to make the call. So that when stuff goes horribly pear-shaped, you get to shoulder the responsibility. Because that's the deal. You're there to serve and protect the people in your team from mistakes and problems, because they happen, right? It's pretty messy, and humility is no fun. And you work for the team as much as you work for the business, right? So defending them is one of your top priorities in terms of lead and execution. You bring the calm, and this is a conversation that I've had with many, many people over the course of the last 15 to 20 years. It doesn't matter what is happening. You are always calm, because you allow other people the space to think and to solve issues and to enter into the chaos in a way that they feel supported by somebody who's not panicking and throwing their oar in the water and making it difficult for somebody to actually keep a train of thought. You protect them from all of those mess and people. In a previous life, there was a incredibly bold manager of crisis in the previous place that I worked, who literally told the CEO of one of the divisions they weren't allowed in the room. Unheard of. I think the best call that they ever made. And they just protected people's space where they could actually solve a problem. And those oaks are not going to help you solve nothing. So keeping them away until we actually know what's happening is one of your primary goals. as you build these teams, like the only way to empower them is to give them clear lines of accountability and boundaries. They must be able to understand exactly where their accountability ends so that they are comfortable in making tough calls themselves and how they capacitize their teams and the work that they do. And time to reveal the secret developer. Timeless knowledge from this gentleman over here. Who knows who this is? I thought there would be fewer of you, actually, to be honest. To build and restore trust is quite tough. It takes a lot of energy and effort. Everybody in this room would have disappointed somebody before and understood what it means to actually gain their trust back. It's a hard journey to go on. Once you get it, it's something that you will treasure and look after and treat very wisely. It's a pretty big superpower. I think when you start this journey, it's important that when you set up that team and you start trying to regain trust, that you get some runs on the board fast. Focus your energy on small deliverables that can get you across the line quickly and regain some kind of rapport with the businesses that you serve. Once you start doing that, your life becomes a heck of a lot easier. You get to start making calls where people actually really believe that you have their best interests at heart. And then the know when to hold them part of this is you really got to be careful in that phase as to how hard you push teams and how much change you inject into the environment. And knowing when to actually take your foot off the pedal and calm the farm a bit and give people time to catch up is as important as getting wins and delivering big projects. That discernment will help you a lot in terms of making sure that you're able to keep your people on the journey with you as you go along it. And then knowing when to run. If you don't have interested sponsors or you don't have people that are willing to work with you closely in the trenches, I don't believe you can win. That's time to exit stage left then. And Kenny Rogers will tell you the same. I think more selfishly than anything else, I think the ask of this presentation was for people to step up and lead. Obviously, you don't want everybody to do that, but for the people that do, that was the advice. If you don't, this piece of the presentation is how you can help those people who do actually step up and decide to lead and defend you in the work that you want to do. So this is a bit of academia. I honestly believe or consider service to be one of the highest callings that anybody can have. When you serve others, something special, really special happens in all of us, I think. And this is the academic approach to say, it involves instilling a customer-focused mindset and fostering teamwork and promote a sense of ownership towards delivering exceptional service. And that's fabulous. But everybody in this room will know that feeling. You don't need that to understand what it felt like when you got it just right, or when you were in a team that was delivering something that was super cool and awesome, and that you knew was going to make a huge impact on somebody's life. And they came in the next day and said, "You, sir, are a champion." Everybody knows that feeling, and they don't need that to tell them what it feels like, right? It's a pretty tough transition to move people out of a headspace, which is the one that I previously described, to living this out every day. But there are a couple of things that I think you can do. So if your leaders remove tasks that you hate from your life, they are Rumpelstiltskin you. They do expect something in return. You'll hate it less, but do them a favor and help them out. A lot of this is about integrity. I think a lot of this falls down in the misunderstanding that people have between each other. So like, there's a lot of frustration in trying to explain complex things to people who don't necessarily care as much to understand, and then they're annoyed with you when they don't have it tomorrow. Like, that animosity that it creates is a problem. The like small wins that you inject into the ecosystem are going to help you to rebuild the integrity that we have. We're not very good at a community at forecasting how long stuff is going to take. And unfortunately, there's something between, like, I can't tell you because it's impossible, and tomorrow. So we need to figure out what that is. It'll take quite a bit of honesty to get them on our side again. And it's important, going back to the first point of taking tasks away from you, that you spend time helping your leaders to actually understand exactly what is going on and how complicated it is and how long it's going to take you to deliver, so that they can defend and protect you. Flipping back to that humility point, like going back all the time and changing the timelines for the people who are trying to defend you is quite tough. They will continue to do it, but it doesn't make their life very easy, and then it makes some of the good days be bad days. Once you build this trust, like, those things seemingly disappear, right? Like, once people believe in you and they know that they can trust you, they ask less questions, and they believe that you're actually on a journey with them, and you start working together much better. And I'd say, like, it's unusual and pretty rare that people rock up at work every day. There's some that don't, and we can ignore those for now. But like, the ones who do, don't rock up to do a shit job most of the time. Like, there's something getting in the way. And like, if you make the assumption that people are there to do their best, sometimes they just do, right? And I'd say, like, one of the biggest ones, or one of the lessons that I've seen happen repeatedly over time is, like, ask for what you need. You may just get it. And that's sort of how I ended up over here in the first place. Was I didn't ask for what I needed, but I sort of was disparaging about someone else's inability to get it right. And then twice that happened to me, actually. They said, well, if you're so knowledgeable, why don't you go do it? And then you can't really say no. So you're stuck in a bit of an awkward spot. So giving your leaders the ability, the full context around what it will allow them to give a clear message to the stakeholders and protect you as well. Don't let that message be different when someone else asks you that question. It just makes them look rubbish, and it doesn't end well. So once we can all together collectively decide what the message is, and we give that as a unit, it makes us, or it builds our credibility with our business stakeholders. I think it's election season, and I guess for everybody here, you sort of got to decide is, who do you want to be led by, or how would you like to lead? There's an incredible amount of joy that can be had by leading people through delivery. And to my previous points, I think once you actually get it right, like, there's no better feeling in the world for what it feels like to be part of a cohesive team delivering something that people really want with people that are interested. And you'll be astounded at how teams step into that space and start feeding off each other's energy in an incredibly positive way. Like, you will attract the best people who will put their life on the line for you. And have a real impact in the businesses that you need to leave and serve. So as you step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to. I thank you for your time.